Hey, welcome everyone. I see it's on the hour. Let's get started. By the time we're done with introductions, everyone would have had a fair chance to join. Let's quickly see what we'll be covering today. We're looking at what's new in 2025 Release Wave 2. We're going to start off with some introductions. After that, we'll have a look at what's new in the actual application. Then we'll delve into the development environment and see what advances have been made over there. We'll continue on to the Power Platform and see what changes was made for the Power Platform in Business Central in the new release. And then we'll have some Q&A. We have some moderators over here today, so during the meeting, if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. We don't have a Q&A section today. Feel free to type them into the chat, and we have some people that'll answer some of the questions. The ones that are not answered, we'll have a Q&A at the end for you guys to actually go through. So without further ado, let's jump into the introduction section. If you haven't met me yet or attended one of my webinars, my name is Bernie. I'm a PTS here at Companial and specifically looking after the Business Central product. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer, and I've been involved with the product for many years, where I started as the product manager in the African region. So I've been training partners and looking after partners pretty much forever in the Business Central space. And together joining me here today, we have Jan.
Hey, hello. I'm also a PTS here at Companial, and I have been a developer mostly, and I'm still in a developer role and help partners with everything regarding development in BC, in Business Central.
Okay. And we also have Marko.
Hello, everybody. I'm Marko. I'm also PTS at the Companial. I'm only working with customer engagement and Power Platform, so this is the difference in between us. I will guide you today what's new from the Power Platform for the BC side, and also I'm Microsoft MVP. So welcome to today's webinar.
There we go. Thanks, Marko. Thanks for joining us for an hour and a half webinar to do the last, like, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. Sorry, your section is so small and you have to sit through the whole thing. But before we get going, let's quickly have a look at the Business Central launch event. So the Business Central launch event has now changed to what they call the Business Central Launch Edition. So I suppose what happened is they decided they're not going to have a live launch event like they normally have in a Q&A session in the traditional sense, like they've had it in the past. So there's not going to be any live event. Basically, just what's going to happen is tomorrow on the 1st of October, the videos will go live on YouTube. So if you go to aka.ms/BC YouTube, you can actually find a new playlist there tomorrow with all of the videos for the Business Central launch event. They will have 3 highlight videos. I just found out a little while ago, there's going to be 48 2-minute highlight videos. Basically, and this is something that Microsoft mentioned a couple of launch events ago, they had like, I think it was like 49 hours, if I remember correctly, of videos that they had recorded, you know, in detail, long, in depth. And the partners came back to them and said, the videos are just too long, you know, we can't work through them. It just takes forever. I remember that because I actually sat and watched pretty much all 49 hours. It took me like, I can't remember, a couple of days sitting and watching the videos until late at night. So with the last launch event, Microsoft made the videos a little bit shorter. I found some of the videos, though, lacking in details, you know, so you're watching through the videos and they show you the features, but they don't show you how to set it up and how to get things going. And the partners actually still even complained and said that that's too short. So they've made 48 2-minute videos, as far as I understand, for this launch event. We'll see tomorrow exactly what's in those videos. Hopefully there are a couple of longer format videos in there as well, so you have the choice of actually watching those. There will be a partner deck as well. And the partner deck is actually going to be a partner deck that you can use that will show your customers, you know, what's new in this version. So we'll make this slide deck that I've got available for you guys as well. But I don't know exactly what Microsoft's going to have in the partner deck. Probably not all the features like I have in this slide deck that we will share with you tomorrow together with the recording. So you will get an email, everybody that's attended here today, where we will share that with you. But if you want to get the partner deck, aka.ms/BC all on 1 October, there will be a link available. You can go and get it over there. Look out for the keynotes at Directions EMEA 2025. So that's where they're actually going to have their full launch event where they're going to tell us all about the new features and everything else. But they will also have a Ask Us Anything office hours event in November. So if you do have any questions about the new functionality or pretty much about anything else in Business Central, make sure you do attend the office hours. Also join the discussion on Yammer. They will create a special group on the Yammer platform where you will be able to discuss this new release. The information contained in what we're covering today is in the BC release plan, aka.ms/BC release plan. If you go there, you can find a link. Let's click on it. Let's show that to you guys. So if you actually go there, it takes you to the release plan page. And from the release plan page, it just gives you an overview. And then if you go to the what's new and planned, this is pretty much everything I'm covering here today, all the information in here. And if you click on any of these topics, it actually takes you to a page that gives you all the details. So if you want more details about anything that I'm covering here today, that's where you can actually go to get all of that information. Okay, so without further ado, what's new in the application? Well, there's quite a lot of sections that we need to cover. Hopefully we can actually cover it in an hour and a half. Last year we made the session 2 hours because previously in an hour and a half in previous years we weren't able to cover all the information. We had a look at what was new in the last year's session and we said no, we've got to do it in 2 hours, and I don't even think we finished in the 2 hours. But this year the amount of functionality and the comments as well in the channel has been that the amount of functionality isn't as big a release as some of the previous releases. But without further ado, let's jump straight in. So of course, starting with Copilot, I've got my cup of coffee. I hope you have a cup of coffee. Let's jump into this. Okay, so with the Copilots and AI, let's see. First feature that's new is give more instructions for the agent when you review its tasks. If the agent needs any assistance at any point in time, you can actually use additional instructions to give the agent information. It applies to all the agents, and you can use it, for instance, if the agent gets stuck, you can use natural language and tell it, go and find an alternate item, or rather have a look at this item, or anything like that. So you have the ability now to actually, during the agent's processing of your tasks, give it better and more instructions. What I have done is at the bottom of all my slides, I have put a link to the actual page that contains the information of the section that's new. So when you get the slides tomorrow, you always have a link at the bottom of the page to take you to more details about that. You can also, they've increased the capability of the sales order agent, giving you the ability to capture more sales. You have the ability to process attachments. There's also support for multiple ship-to addresses. So if the partner actually in his message to you or his email to you says that he would want certain things shipped to different addresses, it can actually look up the different addresses and when it finds the multiple addresses, you can say these items to that address, can actually look up those addresses and find it. It also has the ability to now do capable to promise. So in the past, what it would do is if the customer asked, do you have this, it would just have a look at the items. But now, you know, in the sales orders, you have the ability to actually do a capable to promise and available to promise calculation. It can now do a full capable to promise calculation. So it can actually run the full MRP scenario in there and calculate when we will have stock if we start production of this item today, and then reply to the person and say to them, you know, we will have these items available by this date. You can also now automatically process your emails, so you don't have to review the emails before they get sent back. If you have been working with a sales agent for a while and you see that it's getting all of the emails correct and you don't need to review all the emails every single time, you can have the agent automatically reply without you having to review them. And then also you can resume with your own user input. So quite a couple of changes on the sales order agent. there is, the agent now has a simplified configuration experience, so it's a lot easier to actually configure the agent, and you can also review the actions that the agent actually perform. You can decide whether you actually want to see that. So that's what the new interface actually looks like. And also, it's easier for you to review the actual tasks on the actual agent over there on the side. There is a new Copilot capability for you to actually suggest gas emissions in your sustainability journals. All you do is you go and fill in the journal with some basic information, make sure in the description field and so forth, you actually fill in proper description. And then, for instance, inbound parameters like fuel, distance, etc. And then you can ask the agent to calculate the emissions for you. There is a new advanced Tell Me. So when you use the Tell Me feature in Business Central, there is a new advanced way of doing it. You have to activate this in the feature management. So if you go into feature management, there is a new feature you can activate for the advanced Tell Me. And then when you're searching for a page, you can now find the advanced Tell Me to find it. I often find, for instance, new people using Business Central adjust cost item entries, for instance. It's difficult for them to remember the exact words to find that cost adjustment process. What they can do now is in natural language, they can actually describe the feature that they want to get to. Like, I want to adjust my US dollars, or I want to adjust the dollar currency or whatever. We'll find you adjust, now I can't remember the right name, adjust currency. Sorry guys, I was up really late last night preparing for this today. So if you just go into the advanced search and you type in, adjust currencies or adjust the US dollar or whatever, it'll find the currency adjustment batch job for you in Business Central. So it's actually acting more like a Copilot in that what it's doing is it's actually using the information that it has about the pages to help you search for the page that you are actually looking for. You will also have the advanced find when you go into the full menu in Business Central. When you search over there, you can also say try advanced find in that screen over there to actually use the advanced find. Get more contextual invoice drafts with Payables Agent. The Payables Agent can be made aware of your historical purchase invoices. So what happens is, because the Payables Agent, when you activate it, can now search through your historical documents, your drafts that it suggests will actually improve because it's got more history, it's got more information that it can actually base it on. There's no setup or anything that you need to do. Just when you activate the Payables Agent from now on, it will go into your history and it will find that history so that when you receive a new invoice from a specific supplier, it will now be able to suggest better suggestions for you because it's got that historical information to train itself on. Match purchase invoices to orders with a Payables Agent. So what you're now able to do is through the Payables Agent, when you receive an invoice, that matching through to the purchase order. So if you've got a purchase order, like your full three-way matching, because from your purchase order, you've got to match to the receipts, and from the receipts, you've got to match to the invoice. So now when you receive an invoice through the Payables Agent, it can actually help you do the matching to the actual purchase invoice itself. Prioritize invoice draft changes using the Payables Agent confidence level. In the Payables Agent in Business Central, when you actually go and get the system to give you suggestions, let's just see if I can. Sorry, of course, this has gone off. I'm not too sure whether I have too much time to actually show you guys too much stuff, but I was hoping that, this one is now not the activated one, but you have a little I information button next to field suggestions that the Payables Agent makes. And when you hover on top of it, it usually pops up and tells you, this is where I found this information, or this is why I've suggested this specific value. We have the same sort of I or information when the Copilot does the field suggestions for you. So when you get that little I, the payables agent will now give you a self-scored confidence level. So it'll be like I'm 50% sure that this is the account that you're looking for, or I'm 90% sure this is the account that you're looking for. So it will give you a self-assessed confidence level to let you know if it's 90 or 95% sure. You could probably just accept the suggestion that it's made, but if it's like 10% sure, you might want to investigate that specific suggestion that the agent has actually made for you in more detail. So in that little eye, it'll now give you a confidence level, helping you along. The payables agent is now available in Canada, Denmark, and Spain as well as some enhancements that they've made to the Copilot. You now have the ability to resize the Copilot pane, faster performance and increased reliability. So in BC, when you're actually in here, you now have the ability to just resize this pane. You'll see that there are some limitations to it. I actually only discovered this earlier today. I think it was last week when I tested it. It still wasn't working, even though I was in the preview version 27. So somewhere between then and now, one of the updates that they've done has actually activated that. And later in this wave, there will be support for 20 more languages. Now, this is the last time I'm actually going to mention for the Copilots and the agents and for a couple of the features, what languages and things that's available. I want to point you to this web page over here, the release plans. If you go to the release plans page, this page will show you the different features in the different products, in what languages and what regions they are available. So for instance, this specific link that I've put in there will take you to the explore feature availability by language. So if you do come in here, go to Dynamics, just select Dynamics Business Central and deselect all the other products in here. And so if you've only got Business Central selected, it'll only give you the Business Central stuff on the right-hand side over here. And for the different agent and Copilot features over here, you can now see in which languages they are officially available. For instance, if you have a look over there, capture more sales with the sales order agent, you'll see that English is still the only official supported language for that specific feature. But summarized with Copilot, you'll see that there is quite a couple of languages already available for that one from October 2025. So this page over here is where Microsoft is putting all the information together and telling you what features are available in what region by feature and in what language by feature. Autofill contact details with Copilot. Already, I think it was 25.4 or 25.5. We had the use Bing search in order to add extra details from the web to the autofill details with Copilot. Just for those of you who might not have seen that yet, basically what you're able to do with that is, let's just see, I'm in the right one over here. When you actually do look up certain details, so this happens to be a UK version of Business Central. So if I over there go and put in Companial, and I go down to the address over here, so this feature was already made available by 25.4 or something like that, but now we have phone number, mobile number, email, homepage added to the mix as well in this specific version. And all you have to do is for the autofill is click on those features, and then it'll go and look up the address and the rest of the information over there. So with this version specifically, we have the address, phone, email, and website added. Connect AI agents to Business Central through MCP server. Now this one, even though it's only 2 lines over here, I'm going to actually just spend a little bit of time on this. So MCP is not Microsoft Certified Professional. It's a open API standard that was actually developed by Anthropic and has now obviously been adopted by Microsoft. And MCP, the standard is out there and available for you to use to basically connect systems together. So at the moment, if I go into any agent development and I want to develop any type of agent, and I want to get that agent to connect to Business Central, what I would have to go into Business Central. Sorry, guys, I just want to make sure that, oops, okay. I just realized my phone was still on Bluetooth, and if anybody tried to phone me, it would immediately go onto the, sorry, distracted me there for a second. So if you actually now take Business Central and you make it open and capable to connect to the MCP server, when you're developing an agent, in the past, you would have to open an API in Business Central and then connect specifically to that API. And any system you wanted to connect to, you would have to connect specifically to that API. The problem with that is that every API is going to be different. Different systems are going to have different APIs. But with the MCP server, if you connect to the MCP server, it's contextually aware of what actually happens within Business Central. It knows that when it connects to the customer and to the vendor, because when you look at data, if I've just got this physical data there, 10 customer number 10 name and telephone number, or vendor number 10 name and telephone number, it's not 100% aware of what the difference between a customer or a vendor necessarily is. So you have to tell it that. And that's the type of thing that an MCP server would actually be aware of. A lot of people actually use the analogy and they say that MCP is to agents and the ability to connect different agents to things like what USB-C was for computers. So in the past, you had all sorts of different ports, but with USB-C, it's just basically one port that you use for absolutely everything, and it makes the ability to connect one thing to another thing a lot easier, and that's exactly what MCP server does. It gives us the ability to connect to different things together. So this is a little bit of a game changer. Even though we haven't seen much of it, where I'm actually quite interested to see tomorrow when the videos does get available, what they've said and what they're announcing specifically with the MCP server. We'll see a lot of different MCP servers be announced by Microsoft within the next couple of months. There is a video that Microsoft has already made, Simplify Sourcing and Compliance, with MCP servers. So there's a YouTube video that they've already made specifically with Business Central where they show you the capabilities of the MCP server and what you can actually do with it. Okay. Use AI resources for your Copilot extension. This is the name that Microsoft gave it, but it should actually say use Microsoft AI resources for your Copilot extensions. Basically, when you are extending Business Central and you're creating your own Copilot, when we started with the extensions, you would have to go and create your own AI resources, and you would have to point your extension at your own AI resources. So in other words, when Business Central was sending the prompt and getting the response from the AI resources, you would have to send that to your own AI resources, and you would then end up having to pay for that. And also, when you then deployed that on a customer site, you would end up paying for the AI resources. But Microsoft has now basically made their own resources available for us to use. So when we develop a Copilot in Business Central, that Copilot will actually send the prompt and get the response back from a Microsoft managed large language model. If you now switch to actually having your Copilot use this Microsoft resources, you'll have reduced operational overhead, simplified onboarding, improved reliability, all the stuff that I've got on the screen over there. But Microsoft has also started actually charging for some of the AI features. Now, the Copilots in Business Central are still pretty much not being charged for, but the agents actually, sorry guys, sorry if you did get interrupted over there. Something did connect to the Bluetooth at the end of the day. I thought I heard a ping over there. But at least I think I got it cancelled. Okay, so the agents are being charged for at the moment. You'll see over there billing rates and management. I've included a link over there to a page where you can go where Microsoft actually does give you a little bit more detail. So this is a little bit outside of the scope of what we're actually doing here today. But if you go over here, you can go and see what are actually being charged for. So you'll see over there classic answers. That's the old Copilot type of answer. So a classic answer is 1 Copilot credit, but there's actually no charge for it. Okay. But Microsoft has also made it a little bit more visible for the customers to understand how each Copilot and agent is actually being built. If you go to your Copilot and agent capabilities in version 27, you will now see, if I just go into version 27 over here, and I go over here to Copilot and agent capabilities, this screen, if you go to this screen over here, you will see the billing type. And you'll see over there that all of the Copilots that we've got in Business Central will say not billed. In other words, this is not being billed. But if you have a look at the payables and the sales order agent, it will tell you that you will get billed by Microsoft for this capabilities. So firstly, this is showing you what the capabilities are. And then now putting the two together. So who's the publisher? So if the partner published the Copilot or the agent, or Microsoft published the Copilot or the agent, and the billing type is Microsoft build or custom build. So in other words, you can decide if you have an agent and you want to build a customer for his agent consumption, you can actually do the billing yourself. So for instance, I have a partner, it's custom build, partner's own OpenAI subscription needs to be used, and that is actually allowed. So that's what this table is actually telling us. So it's telling us who's the publisher, what's the billing type, what is the OpenAI usage in code, whether that's allowed or not, and then of course, if it's all Microsoft build, then of course the partner will all pay all of that details through to Microsoft. But if it's partner build, the partner will end up billing the customer for the AI consumption. Microsoft's also improved the analysis assist with Copilot. So when you have a list page, you can use Copilot to actually generate the analysis view for you. So on any list page that you're on, give the system a prompt, and then it will generate the page for you. So it's enhanced with a couple of new features. Firstly, there is a permission set that will either grant or deny you access to the specific feature. You have the ability to check or to ask Copilot to include fields from related tables through the prompt, because we have been able to include fields from related tables ourselves, but not through the prompt yet. And then include feedback when making analysis design choices that might affect performance. So if you just go in there and you then decide, listen, yeah, I'd like to create the following analysis view, sometimes the customers get stuck in that it creates a massive query on the SQL table, and it creates a really bad performance, and it takes forever for the analysis to come up. Now, if you do a prompt and the system realizes that this might be a big query and it might take quite a long time to do, it will come up with a prompt and warn you about that. There's also some new summarize with Copilot enhancements. So when you create a summary, like when you go onto a vendor or a customer page, deeper insights, expanded language support. Later during the wave, summaries will also display clear and consistent use of currency codes. So in other words, in the past, the summaries used to say LCY and an amount when it was displaying amounts. Now it will actually show the local currency code out of the general ledger setup as opposed to just LCY for the currency code. And summaries will also highlight activity from autonomous agents that create or modify the actual record. Okay, country and regional changes. So enable additional countries and regions. Every version of Business Central Microsoft has this one on there. But always when you go to the actual page, they say, yes, we will have a couple of extra countries and regions actually being added. However, we don't have a list yet. The list will be made available later. Normally, if I want to know in what countries or regions Business Central is actually available, just Google Business Central country availability. And the first link is usually the learn.microsoft.com page that usually tells you in what countries or regions Business Central is available, and it's got a full list over there. And usually at the bottom over here, it will include a little note that will tell you what countries and regions are actually coming. And then it will also tell you in what languages is actually supported by Business Central. So watch out on that page. That's also where Microsoft will later announce which countries or regions they're actually adding. Install the UK localization as an extension to the base app. I've heard a lot of discussions about this, and I've seen a lot of threads talking about this. Basically, what they're going to do is the UK localization is not going to be a separate app anymore. This is part of Microsoft's delocalization, where pretty much they're trying to move all functionality back to the base app and then have every country's localization as an actual extension. At the moment, there's nothing in AppSource, so there's no actual UK localization app in AppSource. Not 100% sure. So at the moment, with the preview version, you can actually go and uninstall the UK extension. So if there is an extension, you can uninstall it, but you can't reinstall it again because there's no actual app on AppSource to actually install it from there. So we await for details. The web page still says GA is actually in October. So we'll probably see tomorrow when the videos are released, etc. We'll actually get a little bit more details on that specifically. The Czech version of BC actually got quite a couple of new features in there. So if you're actually from the Czech Republic, there's a list of all the features. Go and look out on the page. You've got quite a couple of big changes coming your way. Submit IRS 1099 forms electronically. Now, this is actually a US feature, and if you have a keen eye, you would have seen that this was actually announced with Business Central 2025 Release Wave 1 or version 26. And you'd be 100% correct. There's actually quite a couple of features in this specific release that I included in my slide deck and that I said was coming in the previous version. But what I see a lot of times happen is Microsoft announces features for a specific version of BC, but they keep pushing back the date for whatever reason. And then eventually it ends up going into the next version of the actual product. So even from the day when Microsoft announced, I think it was 2 months ago now, from the date that Microsoft announced, here are the features that are available, or that's going to be available from version 27. Literally almost every single week there has been changes to that actual page. I started writing a blog, here's all the new features coming in. When I got to version number 4, Microsoft was adding and removing so many things on a weekly basis. There were 2 of the copilots that were going to get customization features that they actually announced that I had included in my blog that just ended up just disappearing off of the what's coming in the next version page. So this is one of many features that I'm actually re-announcing, but basically it just gives you the ability, if you're in the US, you have IRS 1099 forms, you can actually submit it electronically from within Business Central if you have the if you're registered with the tax authority in America. There is embedded verifactor mode is announced for Spain. So this is a legal requirement that they have within Spain. They have to have their invoices submitted and approved. QR codes needs to be added to it. And you have to have those invoices legally traceable, probably for VAT purposes, etc., to reduce the risk of fraud and to simplify the audit process. So that's been added to the Spain localization. Also in Australia, they have a payment times reporting bill for companies that exceed turnover of 100 million Australian dollars. And they need to legally have this functionality in their system. So that's been announced for the release of this version of Business Central. So e-commerce, let's have a look at what's changed in the Shopify connector. Let's just look for time. Yeah, we're still good. What's changed in the Shopify connector? Quite a couple of changes has actually been included in this release. Now, Shopify actually releases a new API, I think every 3 months, if I remember correctly, and every API is supported for 12 months after that. So Microsoft, with every release of Business Central, has to support a later API version. They've also included quite a couple of new features Go to the link at the bottom over there, follow that, and have a look at all those new features that they've actually included in this latest release. There's all sorts of things in here, from just basically archiving orders. So when you archive a sales order in Business Central, it doesn't actually include the Shopify fields. Well, they've included them now. New reports, changes that don't display on pages will now actually display. New fulfillment statuses. There's quite a couple of changes in there. New features have been added to troubleshoot the Shopify connector. Obviously, when the Shopify connector is working, it's really nice, but as soon as something fails between the two, it causes some problems. So there's quite a couple of features that they've added in this version that gives you the ability to just troubleshoot any problems that you might be having with the Shopify connector. Okay, so there is a list of them. You can find out more about them at the actual bottom over there. There is a new start to salesperson mapping for the Shopify orders. So it's not actually possible for you to take the salespeople in Business Central and synchronize them to Shopify. But what you can do is you can do a mapping between the two, so that when you get the orders from Shopify, they can be linked to the correct salesperson, and you can do correct commission calculations or anything like that. So that's a feature that's been included in this one as well. You can find more details at the link below, or when we send the presentation to you tomorrow, you can just read through that section over there. If you use different markets in Shopify, you can actually set up different prices for the different markets. So markets apparently is a feature in Shopify where you can have the same item sold to different markets with different prices. So when you synchronize the catalogs, it will now support the multiple prices as well. And also define the sell to and bill to customer details per company location. So if you have a company with multiple locations and you actually use the sell to and bill to features in Business Central, you can now synchronize that information to Shopify, and when they order from the different locations, you can have the sell to and bill to customer information filled in correctly when the information synchronizes back to Business Central. Next, having a look at the e-documents feature in BC. So with the e-documents, send e-documents via the service and email simultaneously. In the past, what would happen is if I wanted to send it, if I posted a sales order and I wanted to send it via email and maybe via e-documents to the document, what's it called, exchange, you couldn't send two at the same time. What you'd have to do is you'd have to pick one of the two, post the document, then go to the posted documents, open it from there and send it to the other one. It wasn't possible to send it to both of them at the same time, which they have now enabled. And this is another one of those features that we actually did announce 6 months ago when we were doing the same webinar. So one of the features that got pushed back to version 27 from version 26. Use payments with the e-document framework. So identifying whether each document is fully paid, partially paid, or unpaid. So those are the three statuses that you can actually have with it. The payment tracking feature on the e-document includes details such as date of payment collection, amount collected, including VAT, base amount, and VAT amount at the time of payment. So now you can actually have that information in your e-documents as well. So Microsoft basically created a new payment interface, and since they've created the new payment interface, we've had Avalara, Pajero, SignUp, Logic, and Continua, if I remember correctly. Those are all the ones. Well, now we have 4Nav in the mix as well, and 4Nav connector is now available as well. So if you use 4Nav for your e-documents, you can now do that through standard Business Central. Create e-documents from posted sales invoices. So see there's a button on your posted sales invoice now that just says create an email, an e-document. So you have the ability straight from your posted documents to just create and email the document. Whereas in the past, you had to manually create it, and then go create an email, then attach it and send it. Export reminders and finance charges as PEPL files. So what we've been able to do up to now is send invoices and credit memos, for instance, but we didn't have the ability to do finance charge memos or reminders. So Microsoft is slowly but surely expanding into the rest of the product to make sure that all the types of documents in BC can actually be sent as e-documents. So one of the next things that they're actually going to look at is obviously going to be the service invoices, because service invoices at the moment you can't send as e-documents. So there's still a couple of things that they need to expand to, but at least for now we have got the reminders and finance charge memos already. There is a new admin permission set with the e-documents. It's called e-documents admin. It's a permission set that can be assigned to users, and then of course users with that specific permission set can change anything with relation to e-document services and related setups. Without that permission, obviously, you're not able to change the setups. Use e-documents for shipment and transfer shipment document types. So this feature adds new document types to the e-documents, specifically for shipments and transfer shipments. And this was to comply with regulatory requirements. Obviously, in some countries, they actually require you to have the ability to send shipments as e-documents as well. So that's now been added into the product. Set up the clearance model in the e-document framework. This one I'm not 100% sure. This model ensures that the tax authority or the authorized third party. Oh yeah, so this is a requirement where in some countries, before an invoice can actually be shared with the customer, it needs to be approved by a third-party certifier. I know in some countries, for instance, what they do is they have got a specific machine. So once you've actually printed the invoice, you need to scan the invoice and put it through the machine, and it puts a mark on the side to say that this is an approved invoice and it's been sent to the tax authorities. So this is obviously an electronic way of doing the same kind of thing. It has to go to the authority. They have to approve it before it actually gets sent to the customer. So this will be only for specific countries where this is actually a requirement. Use the purchase draft page to preview PEPL electronic invoices. So when you receive an e-document, you can actually preview that document on the purchase draft page, and on there you can actually inspect and validate the data before actually committing it into the system. So that purchase preview page that was actually created for the purchase agent, you can now use on your electronic documents as well when they are received in PEPL format. Process sales e-documents in 2 steps. Business Central basically provides a 2-step process now for handling e-documents for sales. You can first post the invoice and then send them as an e-document after you confirm their accuracy. So if you want to start using the 2-step process, you have to update the workflow for e-documents. There is actually, I made a note over here on the side and now I can't find it. Sorry guys. Here we go. To start using a 2-step process, update the workflow used for e-documents in the sales process by changing the response action from send email using setup to initialize e-document using setup. Afterwards, when you post the sales invoice, Business Central generates the e-document but doesn't send it automatically. The pause gives you the time to review the document and confirm that it's ready to send to the configured access point. Not 100% sure why you would want to review it first before you actually send it. I mean, once you've posted it, you should have confirmed that it's accurate before you actually post it. But this just gives you an extra point to stop. I'm not 100% sure what the actual use is of it. But after you've posted it, you have a time to review it. And if it's incorrect, you have the choice not to send it. Okay, then in financial management, we have a couple of changes as well. Use alternative posting groups for employees. What this allows you to do is it allows you to choose an alternative posting group for an employees. And what basically is the use case over here is if you set up a posting group for an employee and you're constantly posting salary transactions through there, but sometimes you have some other transactions, like say for instance expenses, and while you're posting with the expense, you want to switch the posting group, usually for an item or whatever. What we do is actually on the sales transaction or on the journal, just change the posting group. But over here, they have now given us a setup. So on the actual human resources setup, you can say that you want to activate alternative groups over there. And once you've activated on the setup, you can use alternative posting groups to replace the employee posting group for a specific employee to post certain types of transactions. There is a new SEPA file format that you can use for importing your bank statements. So regulatory changes from November 2025, SEPA, CAMT with that big number, has replaced the previous format, and they've got the number over there as well, to ensure compatibility with banks transitioning to the new ISO 20022 XML standard. So if you have any banks that is transitioning to the new standard, there is a new SEPA file format that will actually comply with the new standard that they're creating. This is a change that I actually saw is in the list for changes of the Czechia changes as well. The new Contoso coffee demo data app will now have demo data for intrastat reporting. So if you want to have proper demo data in there, if you may be demoing to a customer or testing the system, etc., there is demo data that will now be created for intrastat for you as well. Create multiple fixed asset cards. Now, initially when I saw this feature, I thought to myself, well, we have this feature. You just create one fixed asset and you copy it 20 times. But what this feature actually does is the old feature, what it would do is you would go to the fixed asset, you would create one card and copy it 20 times, and then you would have to take those 20 fixed asset cards and add them to the purchase order line by line. So purchase fixed asset number 1, purchase fixed asset number 2, purchase fixed asset number 3, etc. And what ended up happening was when you went to the supplier with a purchase order, you had like a 10-page document if you're buying 200 computers or whatever it might be. Now what you can do in Business Central is when you create the purchase order, and I haven't actually checked it, but someone mentioned that the field is only available on the purchase order, not on the purchase invoice. I'm not sure why they've specifically done it that way, but on the purchase order, there is a new field, a number of fixed assets. So what you do is you go into your fixed asset, you create one fixed asset card, you go into the purchase order, you purchase that one fixed asset, and then you say quantity 200, and then you say number of fixed assets 200. And what that will do is when you actually post that purchase order, it will go and generate the 200 fixed asset cards for you. So you don't need to go and generate the fixed assets and add them to your purchase order one by one. It just creates everything for you all at once. There is a new audit trail report. This obviously was some other requirement for some other specific country that had this requirement, but it's always something that we can actually use. I did try and find the specific report so I can have a look at it. If I remember correctly, I can't remember with all the different features, but this one I think is only probably going to be released in a little while. But the audit trail report will get information from the GL register and GL entry table and will show you accurate details about all of the entries. Because there's always that question, you're always filtering data. So you're filtering data by date and this and that, the next thing, and by dimension, and you've got different columns there, including different dimensions. How sure am I that all my entries are included in all my reports? And that's actually what the audit trail report apparently is for. Use the accounts payable role center. This is another one that's actually not available yet. I think if I remember correctly, this one comes out in December. So we weren't able to have a look at it yet, but there will be a new accounts payable role center that will be available in Business Central. will have all the payable related tasks and documents and entities that you actually would need to use. Calculate excise taxes. I did have a discussion about this one with someone. So what an excise tax actually is this is sometimes known as sins taxes as well. These are the types of taxes that you'll usually find on alcohol or cigarettes, etc. Could be just a flat fee. Usually on cigarettes, they might be a flat fee per type, like flat fee per cigarette, flat fee per cigar, etc. On alcohol and things like that, sometimes they're based on the percentage of alcohol. So if you have something like a wine and it's a 10% alcohol, and then you have a hard tack like a vodka or a whiskey or something like that, or a brandy, they could be 40%, and depending on the percentage multiplied by certain factors, etc., the excise tax is calculated upon that. So initially I thought, this is going to be brilliant. It's going to do all sorts of things around excise taxes, but the framework at the moment only supports the calculation model for the taxes. So it gives you a framework that you can adapt into the various types of requirements. So it's only a framework that Microsoft is giving you at this point in time. There's no sort of, like there's a VAT ledger entry. There's no sort of ledger entry table or anything like that that actually keeps track of specific excise taxes. It is purely for the calculation of the excise tax. I wasn't actually able to have a look at this one in detail as well. I did try and find more information, but hopefully we'll see more in the launch event tomorrow. Okay, the next one, governance and administration. This is another one that I also announced with version 26, the ability to migrate record links and notes with the cloud migration tool. So in the past, when you ran the cloud migration tool, it would not migrate record links and notes. But now with version 27, hopefully it will actually start migrating the record links and notes as well. We announced this with version 26 as well and got pushed back to version 27. So hopefully it's actually, when version 27 comes out, that'll actually be part of the cloud migration tool. Tenant administrators can now set feature management switches with API. So we've had an API for the, let me quickly show you over here. So in Business Central, over there in the admin center, there is actually an API available for you to manage your different environments. So you can actually connect through an API to this environment, and the types of things that you would normally do in your, when you come and administer the environment, like setting update settings, setting the update date, etc., you can actually do through an API. And Companial partners, there is actually a tool that we've created for our Companial partners where they can administer all of their different customers through a tool. Get a hold of us if you want to find out more about that. But Microsoft has now just expanded the API to now give you the ability to set some feature management switches through that API. The new API will get a list of current feature switches and their current state, and then tell you, you can then set it to be activated or deactivated for that feature switch. I think what they're talking about over here is feature management. Oh yeah, sorry. It's feature management. So the feature management, sorry guys, I got confused over there. I was trying to figure out exactly what that one's talking about. This is the lack of sleep talking. It's just discard all of that. So within Business Central, so we've had the ability to manage the admin center through an API. What they've now done is they've now created an API for the feature management in Business Central, giving us the ability to switch features in year on or off through the feature management, through an API. Okay. Reporting and data analysis. Use enhanced financial reporting. Now, there's actually quite a couple of changes that's come through on the financial reporting. And I actually watched some guys talking about new features that have come through on the financial reporting, and they were showing features that actually wasn't on the list from Microsoft, but it's actually in version 27. And I tried to get a full list over here, but I ended up just putting the list that's on Microsoft's launch page onto this list over here. But there's quite a couple of changes that's actually happened with the financial reporting in Business Central, like there has been for the last couple of releases. Microsoft had a big focus on the reporting and the reporting capabilities within Business Central. There's a list of stuff on the screen over there. Watch out for the launch event and have a look at what they are actually announcing over there, because it could be a little bit different from the list that I've got over here. One of the nice ones is that you now have the ability to edit row definitions in Excel. There's, for instance, things that if you change the name of a GL account, it will warn you that you have got a financial report related to that GL account, and it asks you, do you actually want to update the report definition? So if you've got that GL account included in a report line somewhere, it'll update the description over there as well. Dynamic naming for column headings in column definitions. So you can now include the date in your column headings, for instance, in your financial reports. Quite a couple of really nice changes over there. Even the autofill of number and description for row definitions. So, you know, the ability, I haven't actually tested that one, but I suppose that, and from what I've read, you know, you would have to usually add the account number and the description for every single row. It seems like you can now autofill that account number and row. Say, for instance, you wanted to include all of your sales accounts. If you have 20 sales accounts, you would have to manually add the lines. And now you have the ability to do that automatically with the financial reports. Add data fields to report layouts using the word add-in. This one I also didn't actually have the time to go and test and play around with, but you would used to have to go to, in Word, you would have to go to the developer tab, and then you would have the XML definitions on the side over there. Sorry, Jan, I forgot. I wanted to double check whether you have this in your section, and I never got around to it, but I hope I'm not doubling up on the stuff that you're going to be discussing. But now maybe you've actually played with this one, but now you have the ability to actually show the data fields as opposed to the XML, and a much better way of actually working with this interface and actually doing the mapping and getting the fields into your Word reports over here. And then, of course, Kenny Pontoppidan has been busy for the last like 3 or 4 releases, actually adding a whole bunch of really nice Power BI reports into the system. So with this one, there is a whole bunch of new purchasing Power BI reports that's been added to analyze any type of risk related to vendors. Is the focus of these reports that they've actually done. So there is a new purchasing Power BI app. And there's also a new Power BI sales app. So go and have a look at those 2 apps. And then, of course, you can actually surface those reports straight in Business Central. There is a whole Power BI thing about that. So if you are not 100% sure about how to actually set up those reports and how to get them surfaced in Business Central, get a hold of us and we can actually demo this to you guys and show you how to actually get them set up and going in BC. Okay, supply chain management, sort lines by type and number in sales and purchase postings. So this is not actually something that's going to have any type of user specific relation to us. This might have an effect on the developer side, maybe, and we'll talk about that as well. But with this, basically what's going to happen is if I had a long purchase order or a sales order, and say, for instance, I had different types of items and resources in there. If I remember correctly, how the posting routine actually cycles through is whatever line you were currently on, it would start posting that line, then would carry on until the bottom. When it reached the end, it would go back to the top, and then would carry on posting until it reached the line that you were on. So if the first thing is a resource, and then all the rest of the stuff is items, then right at the end, you've got a resource as well. It would keep that resource table actually locked all the time while it's posting inventory transactions. So what it does now is it actually sorts the lines by type. So it posts all of the item related entries, then all of the GL entries, then all of the resource entries, then all of the item charges, so that you get better concurrency and better inventory posting. And this might actually have an effect on your code if you have written any code or changes to the way in which sales lines or purchase lines actually post, or you made changes to the posting routines. So by default, and this is something that we've all had to do, a customer decides for their customer table they want to use the name and the name to field. But then we find out that the name to field doesn't show everywhere in Business Central. So now we've got to do page extensions for sales order, sales quote, sales invoice, posted sales order, posted sales quote, posted sales invoice, to go and add the name to field everywhere. Sell to customer, name to, buy to customer, name to. All of these fields wasn't added by default, so you couldn't add these fields through personalization. You had to go and add these fields through customization. But with this version of Business Central, they're actually now added to the tables by default, and the user then has the ability to actually show these fields by personalizing the fields. If you want to get a list of all the fields and the pages where they have been included, they are actually on the launch page over there, and they tell you more about it over there. So this is actually a feature. Remember, I mentioned earlier that Microsoft's busy with the delocalization campaign, so where they're taking all of the localized features, taking it out of the localized versions and moving it into the W1 product. So this is a feature they've taken out of the Italian product. So in the Italian localization, there is a feature that deals with subcontracting capabilities in your production process. And Microsoft had a look at this feature and they said, well, this is actually something that all countries can use. So I hope it's not my actual sound from talking, but I've got a comment over there that says sound's getting worse. Please, someone let me know if the sound is actually getting worse from when I'm talking. But what Microsoft's done is they've taken this and they've taken it out of the Italian version, put it into the W1 version. So if you are in the Italian region, you can actually, through the feature management, you can activate this. And what that will do is it will migrate your stuff through from the actual Italian change to the W1 change. And from there on, you will actually use the W1 change. Make sure you make a copy of your production database. You test this properly in there, and then go and activate it in your actual production database. But what this feature change is actually going to do is it gives you the ability to actually do warehousing features on subcontracting. So what subcontracting is in the production process, I have something that I'm manufacturing and I need to take this item, I need to send it to someone else, and they will paint it, powder coat it, anodize it. They'll do some other process with it, and when they're done with it, they'll actually send it back to me. But sometimes I need to pick certain items out of the warehouse to send. Sometimes I'll have to take the sub-assembly that I'm using, send that out, and then I need to have a receipt process to receive that back into my warehouse. Now, traditionally with subcontracting, a lot of that stuff wasn't possible. This change actually makes it possible now. And then a change that a lot of us has. Okay. Let's just go with the standard. Just let me know if you can hear me now. Let's just go with the standard laptop mic.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Thanks. See some thumbs up popping up over there. Okay, so evaluating the quality of incoming goods and materials. This is a feature that we've been waiting for a while, and everybody's eagerly awaiting this change. There is a lot of people I know out there that have actually done the customization and changes around quality management themselves. There is also a lot of quality management features available in AppSource, and we at Companial in our empowered product, we have a quality management feature as well. And quality management is actually something that manufacturing companies, if they, it's a functionality that everybody needs, because there's also always some sort of quality management. Everybody that deals with food, there's an international standard called HACCP, where the quality of food and the temperature of food has to be checked at various different processes and places, especially when receiving stock, to make sure that the food hasn't gone above 5 degrees Celsius, for instance, and because above 5 degrees Celsius, bacteria starts growing. To check ISO certification or accreditations for health and safety and all sorts of things like that. There's a lot of things that goes around quality management. On the launch page, Microsoft does have a list of things that they say is included in the quality management, but we haven't actually seen the functionality yet, and that's what we're waiting to see. So there's a quality management feature that's coming with this version of Business Central. It's been announced and it should be available. I actually think it should be available in November. So hopefully when November rolls around, so it wasn't in the preview version that we had of version 27. So hopefully when November rolls around, we'll actually see what this is. Maybe they're holding back for directions to actually do a big announcement on this. Okay. Oh, Jonas says it should be in December. Thanks, Jonas. Okay, configure the default calculation to calculate consumption. So in a production order, when we are in a production order and we want to calculate the consumption, every time we have to go and change the setting. So there's two settings over here, actual output or expected output. So when we say calculate consumption based on actual output, if we have said we want to manufacture 10 items, manufacture 11 items, we can say go and calculate the consumption of the goods that I need to do based on the actual output or on the expected output. In other words, I only took 10 items out of inventory, but I manufactured 11 items out of it. So this is sometimes, and this is not in discrete manufacturing where I have, you know, a bicycle where I have 10 frames and 20 wheels and I put them together and I get 10 bicycles. This is where you have steel and you fold and bend and break and cut and do all sorts of things like that. And sometimes you get 10 pieces cut out of a piece of steel, and sometimes you get 11 pieces cut out of a piece of steel. So, and then every time, whenever I do my output calculation, my consumption calculation, every single time on that production order, you have to say, is it based on my actual output or expected output? Now, actual output is the default. So if you always calculate on the expected output, every single time you do that calculation, you have to change that setting to expected output. And sometimes users forget and then errors creep in. So with this setting, what happens is you can actually now default it to a specific setting over here. Okay, and then as I expected, time's starting to catch up on me. So the sustainability management, even though there's a lot of features in here, I'm going to breeze through them very quickly because we are starting to run out of time a little bit, but you can go and read more about the sustainability features in there, and that's why I specifically left the sustainability towards the end. CSRD reporting, there's a preparation report for this. There is taxonomy elements for ESRS or other standards. Use sustainability scope 3 value chain for assembly and transfers. So on assembly orders and transfer orders, you now have over here, you'll see, where is it? Quantity per, over here somewhere is a CO2 field, CO2 amount. There we go. And then, so that's on an assembly order and on a transfer order, CO2. You can actually add the values in there to actually do the CO2 calculations for those automatically. Provide carbon equivalent data based on scope 3 automation. There's quite a couple of changes in here. Gonna jump through some of these. Use updated demo data for sustainability. A lot of new demo data has actually been included to help show you what is actually possible, including demo data around waste and water accounts. The journals, there's a lot of new entries in the journals to actually show you what you can do with that. Use ESG reporting integrated into Business Central. Avoid changing the emissions unit of measure. This apparently was a problem because what would happen is people would start posting in one unit of measure and then switch to a different unit of measure, which would mess up the reporting. So now there's setting in the sustainability setup so that you can't change the unit of measure once you've started posting transactions. Start value chain in the purchasing process for scope 3 and sustainability. Track energy consumption in your sustainability. You now have the ability to say what type of energy you consumed. Was it solar, wind, or fossil fuels? You can also keep track of all gases and CO2 equivalents in your sustainability. You can report on social and governance information for employees. There is now the ability to do carbon border adjustment mechanism reporting and ERP calculations, track item charges across the value chain automation. So for the different types of item charges, you can say what type of CO2 emissions was related to that. And that is both for item charges as well as for projects. You can do the same thing on both of them. Track items of concern related to gas emissions. So if you have specific items that are items of concern for you, you can highlight and track them and specifically set defaults on them as well. Require approvals for your sustainability journals. So in other words, there's now approval process that's been added before you post your journals. There is a new sustainability manager role center that's actually been created as well. And you can now use sustainability scope 3 in your manufacturing processes. And then lastly, in the user experiences, just one thing, you can now adjust the width of the Copilot help and page scripting panes in BC. So what I showed you earlier with the Copilot, where you can actually adjust the sizes, that's been done for the Copilot, the help, and the page scripting panes. So you can actually adjust the sizes of that. Okay, so what's new development, Jan?
Yes, thank you. Let me share my screen.
Oh, I think Jan's done exactly what I've done a couple of times, and that is hit the leave button because that's right next to the sharing button. I see you giggling. That's what you did. You're muted, Jan. Yeah, sorry, okay. When you join the meeting, it mutes you automatically.
Yeah. Okay, I'll continue with the development part of the release plan. Basically, there is not that much in the release plan this time. So I looked in some other places, and there is also something about removed objects or code. And there's also a lot of information in the AL language extension for the current, for the next release, which is already available if you download it and you switch to the preview release. I think from tomorrow you will just use the current release. So I will cover everything that's in there also. In the release plan, there's this list of items, and the first thing is that we can now cancel a build and a publish action from Visual Studio Code. If you have a small app that you are going to publish, that's not that useful because it's really quick. But if you have a larger app, then compiling and publishing will take a while, several minutes usually. And now you can cancel that build or cancel the publish if you decide that you need to change something else, or if you remembered that you forgot to do a setting or something like that. The second one is hide Copilot summaries. Bernie already mentioned that there's summaries now available in all kinds of pages in Business Central, but maybe you do not want to show these for everyone or never, whatever. And you can hide these by AL code. So if I switch to my Visual Studio Code here, you can see that I have a page extension here created on the customer card. And I can set the default summary part. I can set that to visible false. So this is a new part which is available on cards, documents, and List Plus pages. And if I hover over that, you can see that it is a system part. So it's something that is created by Microsoft automatically in the application. And it is always called default summary part. You cannot add more summary parts, so this is the one you get. Then we have the page scripting tool. And there is a lot of improvements there in the page scripting tool. And the first one is that if you add a new item to your page scripting, until now you had to redo everything that you did before the place where you want to insert something new. But now you can move this red line and you can just insert on that position. You can also reorder the steps in your page script and you can delete steps. Of course, it can make your page script invalid, so it is up to you to make sure that it still works, but at least you can now do it if you have something that you forgot or that you need to add because something was changed in the application. So I think a very useful modification. Second thing is you can also now add parameters through the UI. So you can have parameters in your script and you can give them a value in the UI when you execute the script. And you can also create a suite of page scripts. You can do that by placing them in a kind of folder, and scripts that are in the same folder are now in a suite. And if these scripts within a suite use the same parameter names, they will also copy the value of that. Wrong order. Then there's a new command called truncate on tables, and it's very useful on large tables that you want to clear because it deletes everything in that table, and it deletes everything based on a filter, so you can set a filter. We already had, of course, the delete all trigger, which also does that, but that delete all trigger gets everything into the service tier and then deletes it, while the truncate does it more on a database level. There are some restrictions. You cannot have a media or a media set field in your table because then a truncate will not work. And please be aware, it will not automatically remove linked tables because it doesn't execute any code that you have. So it is something to use with care, but it will speed up a lot if you need to remove hundreds or thousands or more records from a table. And then there's view SQL call information in performance profiles. You get now the information of all the calls that are being done by the application in your performance profile, and you can also, even if they are too big to show in the profiler, you can just copy them and you will get the full SQL call that has been sent out. So you can get all the information there. So it should be helpful in analyzing what happens. Then maybe you got one of these emails from Microsoft Dynamics 365 that you have to modify your extension. That is because some objects and code have been removed from version 27. These are things that were obsoleted a long time ago already. But just like in the previous version where code was removed, actual code is now being removed from the application. For example, the code unit no series management for number series. It's no longer there. So if you have any references to that, you need to refactor your code. And same for some events like the one I mentioned here. that event doesn't exist anymore, so you cannot use it in your code anymore. Then in the release notes from the AL language extension in Visual Studio Code, there's also a lot of things mentioned there. The first one is that we have a new extended data type property for media and media set fields. You can now set the extended data type to document, and it will show, it will help the client to show a document icon if you have this media type used in your application. So you get more information to your user. They can directly see that this is a document and not just an XML file or a picture or whatever. Then we have a new property on fields, and it's called mask type. You can set that to none, which is the default setting, and that doesn't change anything. But you can also set it to concealed. And what happens if you have an input field like that? In the right hand side of that input field, you get this eye with a line through it. And if you click on there, it will show you the value of the field. So it is a concealed value, but you can show what's in there. Then this line of code is actually 2 lines, I think, that I want to show. There's this field exist function and the field function of a record ref variable. And until now, you needed to have a field number. And these have been modified. So you can now, instead of the field number, the field object ID, field ID, you can now use the field name, for example, payload, like in this example. So that makes your code more readable. You do not need to think, okay, field 23, what was that? You can now directly use the name of the field. Then there is a property in customizations, in your tables, in your fields, you can say, okay, can other developers use this, this field in a customization? And until now, there was a setting called never, and there was a setting called always. Always is deprecated now. You should not use that anymore. But instead, you use one of these, as read only and as read write. So you can define on a field that people can add that in a customization, but they can only read it, which is basically what was the old always settings, because it was never editable in the old version. But from now on, you can also add a field as read write, or at least allow for read write. And then in the customization itself, it can still be set to non-editable. So that's also a new property that you can set in a customization. Furthermore, you can now set this in a, it's now a table property or a table extension property. So if you do not need to specify it on the field anymore, but you can set it as a default in your table. If you set it on a table extension, it's only a setting for your table extension, not for the other fields in the table, and not for other fields that come from other extensions to the same table. Then for reporting, there's also some changes there. If you have an empty data item in your report and you create an Excel layout there, it will now remove the tab, the empty workspace, empty worksheet that is created in Excel. So you can just remove empty data from your Excel sheet. Of course, you will get an error if you do not have any any data items with data when you export to Excel, because then you would have an Excel file with no worksheets, and that's not allowed. Also, layout information in the Excel sheet now contains metadata like the object caption and the local date and time zone. So you get more information about what fields are in your Excel document. And then in the word layout XML, there's a modification, so you can now use the new data picker in the Word add-in, and it contains also an obsolete state attribute, because of course also report fields could become obsolete. So you can see in your Word document that you are using obsolete data if you select that field. Testing. There's a few changes in the tests also. First one is that if you create a test code unit, you can now require a type of test isolation. Test isolation is a function, is a setting on your test runner, but not all the tests that you write may function correctly for all test isolation types. So you can now define on your test code unit that you require a type of test isolation. If you set none, then it doesn't matter. Then you just accept everything. But the other ways is you cannot, you need to have a test runner of the same type before you can run this test code unit. Then a second property that you can add to the code unit is called test type, where you can set AI test or integration test or unit test, or you can leave it uncategorized. And that's mainly for grouping all your tests in the same code unit so that you can better see what type of tests will be performed from that test code unit. Then there's a few tools that we are using. The first one, of course, is Visual Studio Code. It has two new themes. It's called Business Central Light and Business Central Dark, which has different coloring, different color themes. The team is very proud of it. And it's not only just a new theme, it's also new functionality with coloring. It's called improved semantic highlighting. Like if you have a construct with these if then, if else, and if settings, if you are checking for settings like if it is a new release or if it is a specific version of your app, then the code within the if or within the else branch will be highlighted, yes or no. There is one issue with parentheses. They may still get a coloring if they are not, even if it's not supposed to be. But that is a known issue. But that's something you may expect there. Another option that's improved is the go-to symbol in Workspace, which is a Control-T shortcut. It was until now not able to find all places where symbols were defined. So that's improved now. There's more places where symbols will be found. And if you have a symbol that's coming from a different place, then you will have better experience there finding this symbol by going to it. Then since a while we have this ALDoc tool, which can make documentation from your code. One of the things that was not yet available is definition of your namespaces. So what you can now do is you can make a specific file, and that file needs to have the name of your namespace .namespace.al as file name. And there you can just add documentation for your namespace to make it better documented in your AL doc output. There's a lot more of improvements in AL doc. I think you should read the release notes in Visual Studio Code for the AL extension. Then there is the AL tool. AL tool is a toolbox created by Microsoft, and that also now is able to compile code, which is of course the same thing that the AL extension in Visual Studio Code does. The big thing here is that this AL tool is also available as a NuGet package, and that makes it very useful to include in your CI/CD pipelines, where you can just import that NuGet package and from there compile your AL code. So it's a lot easier to do it that way than to completely install a Visual Studio Code compiler. Finally, because there's new fields and there's new properties that you can set, there have been additions to the app source cop and to the per tenant extension cop. There's not a lot of slides left. Yeah, maybe 10 minutes. Okay. So there are new rules. There's even more ones, but these are the actual things that I want to highlight. And for me, the triggering text here is in the first one. It says it will allow the change of field IDs for tables and table extensions under specific conditions. It's enabled for Microsoft for now. So maybe we get that in the future. No promise, not so whatsoever, but at least Microsoft can now renumber tables and table extensions. That's it for me, Bernie.
There we go. And now we've got Marko wrapping up for us for what's new in Power Platform.
Yep, I'm here. So we do not have a lot of update, but I will try to be fast and to finish as soon as possible. So first, what we have new is the use of the e-documents framework with Power Automate. So in reality, what it happened, BC has enabled API so that you can easily share e-documents from BC to other applications. So you can use it. There is going to be Power Automate template, but you can now use this connector, this API, which is open to store documents in different places, blob storages, SharePoints, or wherever you need using Power Automate. So this is one of the newest API which is open, so it makes life a bit easier when we are talking in the perspective of e-documents. The next update, Bernie, is slide.
Well, I kept mosquito.
So automate environment management with Power Platform. So the value in this is that now you can use the Power Platform connector for the Business Central admin center. And this allows you to do the environment management, all tasks in Power Platform products. So basically this includes Copilot Studio, and now you can create environments, copy environments, schedule environments, updates, integrate environments with other systems. So you basically can do everything from one place. And the third one is the Bernie slide.
What's going on? Oh, there we go. Oh, no, okay, I went one too far.
Go back.
Yeah.
Use now the third one is use of the enhanced Power BI Sales app and modernized reports in Sales Analytics. So basically, this improves reporting and analytics for the salespersons. So in Power BI, the Power BI sales apps now offer much more capabilities. So there is a sales forecast, there is sales by projects, which you can get and take full analysis and see everything what is happening there. And also the changes they did is in semantic models, so you can use data from projects and general ledger in your analysis. Also you can use source code in new open source, so there is a lot of improvement. And if you go to this link when we share the presentation, you will see in the docs details and also a couple of screenshots how this looks like and what you can now expect when you go to the sales by project or sales forecasting in Power BI, and to see improvements and which combination of data you can use across Power BI. And now, Bernie, next slide.
There we go. Thanks, Marko.
Welcome.
And we've only got Q&A left, so if there are any more questions, please feel free to ask us. The chat will actually stay open after the meeting's ended, so if you do have any questions about any of the what's new stuff, feel free to ask your question in there and we can answer it over there. Thanks for sticking around. We didn't end up being 10 minutes later, we were only 5 minutes over, so sorry for putting pressure on you, Jan and Marko, going over on my section. And thanks for joining us, everyone. And we will see you in the next update webinar or the next What's New webinar. And if you do have any questions, feel free to get a hold of us. Thanks, guys.